Entitlements. We have, depending on what stat you look at, we have about 50% of the people in the United States right now are getting some sort of entitlement. I always had real concern why they call it an entitlement. I believe it's a government subsidy. There's folks that put in, as most of us, our parents did, and our children are now, into the Social Security system. There's people that are handicapped. We have our military that have earned it. We have single moms having to raise kids. Some of these people need help. We all agree with that. But 50% of the folks out now under some sort of government systems, how can we get entitlement reform?
Well, we actually have to have that discussion, and we've had that discussion. I have voted for the last 2 years for an RSC, which is a Republican Study Club, which is groups of conservatives, very conservative members of Congress, to vote for a budget. Same thing with the Paul Ryan plan, in which we actually talk about those programs that we made promises to. We want to make sure how we actually use that word entitlement. What we did is we made promises to our seniors. We made promises to our military. And there's a way to uphold that. But we have to review them. John F. Kennedy once said that if we don't review these processes in which we help people subsidize their retirement, their health care, we will become victims. And that's exactly where we are today. That's why we've actually had those hard votes, talking about balancing the budget, but taking some time. Because we actually have to have people working not only in the House, but in the Senate. And a president that also wants to have a discussion. You can't have that discussion unless you have 3 corridors of our federal government having that discussion. That's what we have done. But we've also had those, when we had the tax holiday, we actually brought some of the benefits reforms. For example, if you're on unemployment now, you're not going to get 99 weeks. What you're going to have to do is you can also, states that want a drug test will not be interfered by the Department of Justice. We also have 10 states that will mimic Georgia, which actually says they take your benefits and actually make you go to a job to retool. So there's reforms on the way, but we're going to have to do this all the way across the board.
Tom, we've already done some of this in the Arizona State Senate. We reduced people's access eligibility. We actually reduced it to the poverty level. You folks might find this hard to believe, but we were actually giving free health care to people at 175% of the poverty level. To me, that's rather ridiculous. When you do things for people, some people will quit doing things for themselves. So we create a dependent class of people. We should not be doing that as government. That sets bad moral policy. Once upon a time in America, to be a rugged individualist and to take care of yourself was something that people strived for, that people instilled in their children. A lot of times we don't see that anymore. We've made these tough decisions in Arizona, and if you send me to Washington, I'm willing to make those tough decisions in Washington also.
Sharing some more specific in terms of entitlements, obviously we're all against the expansion of this government and its runway. That we actually, instead of addressing the problems at hand here in America, what people, including people on this stage, have done is push it to the next election and then try to explain away their votes. And I'd like to see the explanation of voting. The only member of the Republican members of Congress from our state to raise the debt ceiling. Why don't we address the core issues of entitlements and look at, first, Social Security? For those, as my father and mother on Social Security are 80, 81 years old, we're not talking about, at least from my position, to cut or affect those who are currently receiving benefits or those who are 55 and above. I'm talking about the rest of us. We see young men and women here who do not believe for a minute that there's ever going to be Social Security waiting for us. Because we're spending all of this money. That put those into private accounts. You want to talk about creating wealth in America, individual accounts that will be there when our younger generations reach retirement, but hold to that commitment for those that are receiving it, many of which that's their only income. Look at Medicaid, look at Medicare. Obviously, it's a great need for that. We want to take care of those who need the help. But as Senator Gould pointed out, we're into this era of our country that is defying who we are as Americans, becoming a nation that the leader of our country says those who have and those who don't have, and is dividing us along economic lines. And now those who don't have are exceeding the majority. And we're past the tipping point with this election, and we've got to stop that. and talk about the essence of our free market economy is not pit people against each other because this lady has a good job, that's why you're out of work, or because this person over here has a nice house, that's why you don't have a nice house. That's what our president is doing. We have to say, you too can have a nice house if you work for it. We have to create those opportunities in our economy.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to rebut that.
You bet.
You know, I find it very interesting that we have a sheriff over here who couldn't even balance his own budget and actually ask for a bailout. When in my budget, what I actually do is saw to it to a district bigger than the size of Pennsylvania, providing services and making sure that we got legislation done on your behalf with you, and then returning $80,000 to the treasury. I'm also not a state legislator that actually balance a budget in the state on the backs of counties and cities. What we need to do is we need to have fortitude in looking at item budgets. I'm actually the one that has pushed reforms on Medicare, Medicaid, and healthcare reform.
Okay, Senator.
You know, I heard a little bit of talk about means testing, and I have a real problem with means testing in something that people have paid for their entire life. Because essentially, if you go to means testing when people reach retirement age, and you say, sorry, you've provided for yourself well enough, you aren't eligible then for your Social Security benefits, isn't that just a tax? Didn't they just take essentially 16% of your income on the promise that you were actually going to get that money back in your old age, and then they're just going to decide no, because the federal government can't control its spending, and they looted the Social Security Trust Fund, that now people that provide for themselves will have been taxed 15% through their entire working career. I don't think that's the way to handle it. I really don't.
I have a $47 million budget in the sheriff's office, providing probably the core service in a county, public safety. Just like our military nationally, we have to have a strong national defense. In Pinell County, my budget isn't balanced. And this is where, if the congressman cared to study what actually went on there, my budget's been in balance. I've actually had numerous cuts over the year, and we actually improved service. This is a case study of what works in government. Cut emergency response time in half. In fact, I have $2 million additional dollars within my control of the sheriff's office, where we have a $900,000, what he's saying is a deficit, is a projection because of fuel. We all know the fuel cost back 3 years ago was $1.80. Now it's $4 plus. There's a $600,000 overage just this year for fuel. In addition, the remaining balance is my Board of Supervisors, and you know it's still a Democrat county, voted 2 months after my budget was adopted, July 1, in August, to give a pay raise, 40 cents shift differential, and on-call pay, another $400,000 or $500,000. And they never funded the money, as well as $800,000 for workman's comp. I had to make up the difference, and I did it. Something the congressman still hasn't answered about the deficit. The only Republican. A gentleman here said 2 years ago he made a pledge to this man and to this district, or should I say the first district, that he would not vote for an increase of the debt ceiling. And he has done that.
Okay.
Got some explaining to do.